We all love bad Christmas movies, and we know what makes them bad, but why not look at the glass as half full and discuss the good parts of a bad movie? That's what we're going to do today, so let's slug through Jingle All the Way and find the good parts.
What's the only thing scarier than going out on Halloween? Shopping on Christmas Eve.
I'll get that toy.
I promise.
These two are looking for a turbo man.
On November 22nd.
This is war.
Get ready to shop till the last man drops.
Oh, poor baby.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jingle All the Way. Rated PG. November 22nd, only in theaters.
After a successful comedy film career with Twins and Kindergarten Cop, Arnold was brought on in the last minute to take the role of Howard Langston, a workaholic father who waits until the very last minute to purchase his son Jamie's Christmas present, the hard-to-find Turbo Man action figure.
Which reminds me, you got the doll, right?
The doll.
Running all over town, Howard finds that every store is sold out, battling other parents looking for the figure, including postal worker Myron, played by Sinbad. Jingle All the Way came out in 1996 and managed to make $130 million at the box office by the end of its run. A lot of people saw it and loved it. However, I have to admit that Jingle All the Way is one of my least favorite Christmas movies. But could there be a few good parts? Let's check it out.
First category for 1996 is big stars in bad films, and my list begins with the biggest star worldwide, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who started the year with a good picture, Eraser, but finished with a loser, Jingle All the Way. The lame story of a workaholic dad who has to hustle to find a sold-out Christmas toy for his son.
Good news!
And that's all there is to the story. None of the Schwarzenegger trademarks of high-tech, big action, or good humor. His three kids' films, Kindergarten Cop, Junior, and now Jingle All the Way, have been lame. He has to learn to select smarter scripts, I think, for family entertainment.
On Rotten Tomatoes, Jingle All the Way has a 20% critic review and an audience score of 41%. One review proclaims it's the best movie of all time, enough said. While others think Arnold should have stuck to tracking down kidnapped daughters instead of action figures.
Leave anything for us?
Just bodies.
And another warned, if you have a couple of hours to spare, take up crochet, do it badly, have a nap, read the phone book, anything but waste your existence watching this movie. With thousands of reviews, nothing sums up the user reviews than this spelling challenged user who wrote, "Just got done watching for the first time, and I got to say, screw the critics, this movie is phenomenal." With an F. Opinions about what makes a movie bad or good can differ greatly. To help identify the good parts, I'm joined by the host of the Tinsel Tunes and Christmas Morning podcast, Scott Newman. Scott is a Christmas music aficionado and admitted on an episode of Christmas Morning that he's never watched Jingle All the Way. So I reached out, asked him to watch the movie, and was wondering if the movie has some good parts. Welcome, Scott. What was your opinion of Jingle All the Way? Do you agree it was phenomenal with an F?
No, I don't think Jingle All the Way was phenomenal or even pretty good. Watching this with 2023 sensibilities, I was shocked at how much comedic violence there was in the movie. The humor was crude and outdated and sexist. I was able to mentally transport myself back to 1996, and I was able to say, oh yeah, we thought this was okay once, and I didn't absolutely hate the movie. That said, it's really dumb, and I can see how some people do hate it. I thought it had its moments, and there were some parts that I laughed at.
Oh, these cookies! I gotta get the recipe from Les.
Put that cookie down! Now!
I agree for the most part. We both watched this as an adult, and we were too old to really find this funny. But let's discuss the good parts of Jingle All the Way and see if we agree. The look and the style of the Turbo Man show. The movie opens with Jamie watching the Turbo Man television show, resembling the look and style of the Power Rangers. Now, I was too old ever to get into Power Rangers, but I can appreciate the art department using the show as a reference. It makes sense because of the Power Ranger popularity and the goofiness of Turbo Man with his sidekick Pink Tiger Booster. They battle Dementor and his henchman, the Demon Team. While Sinbad would later be in the Dementor costume during the parade, the TV show features the great Richard Mall from Night Court. It's a small part, but I appreciate the casting. The filmmakers were smart on creating unestablished new superhero characters that reverence the look and feel of a show that embraces the goofiness of the Power Rangers. What do you think, Scott?
I totally agree that this was a good part of the movie. I was also too old for the Power Rangers when they came out, but it's really funny to remember how comically bad they were, and the nod to this really made me smile. I had no idea Bull from Night Court was Dementor. In fact, I had to look it up just to prove it to myself. So yes, this is a good part of the movie.
The one thing that's missing is a cheesy theme song. In fact, I would rather watch that TV show of the Turbo Man than this movie. The story inspiration. Jingle All the Way was inspired by the Christmas shopping craze of parents desperately looking for the Cabbage Patch Kids in the early 80s. From then on, it seems that the supply and demand for toys happens every year, from Tickle Me Elmo to the Ninja Turtles to the video game systems. A Christmas film about a parent's struggle to find the hard-to-find toy for their child at Christmas is a great idea. As a father, I know the struggle to help Santa find your kid that most wanted toy. The difference is that the fathers in Jingle All the Way are all terrible people, and these kids deserve better. Howard barely pays attention to his kid, who knows it and shames him. Ted was smart to buy the toy in advance, but so creepy. And then Myron makes a bomb threat against the police, ties up an actor playing a Dementor, and then kidnaps Jamie. I think that is my biggest problem with the movie. A story about finding that hard-to-find toy is a great idea. I want them to get a Turbo Man for their kids, but also don't because of how awful the parents are.
The idea of this as a basis for the movie was good, but I was left wondering why Howard didn't just buy a black market toy. They established him as a successful workaholic who should have been able to buy his way out of the problem. And they sort of did this with the Santa scene, but the entire movie could have been sidestepped with, "Here's $500, let me buy one of those Turbo Men." And yes, the fathers were terrible, but they were too terrible. They were so over the top that they weren't believable. It was just slapstick comedy. I couldn't root for either of them. Even early on in the movie, when we see Howard on the phone with his customers saying, "After all, you're my favorite customer," it didn't set him up as somebody I wanted to succeed. So yes, it is a good part of the movie, but it was poorly executed.
It's a good story idea, but a failure because we are supposed to care about these awful fathers who don't deserve their kids. Phil Hartman. His character of Ted is an awful human being, but Phil Hartman is so good as Ted. This wouldn't be the first awful character the SNL alum has ever played. Troy McClure from The Simpsons and Bill McNeil from News Radio were unlikable characters, but Phil Hartman was so likable that it's hard to hate him.
Oh, these cookies! I gotta get the recipe from Les.
Put that cookie down! Now!
As bad as this film is, Phil Hartman was always a team player. A making-of documentary hosted by Phil Hartman sets up clips and pre-recorded interviews with the cast. At the end, he portrays Frank Sinatra in his tux, smoking, singing Jingle Bells.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Sadly, Jingle All the Way and Small Soldiers were his last movies before his death.
Phil Hartman's acting was the good of this good part. The character of Ted is an absolutely horrible person, and I was surprised to see how much of this womanizing is played off for laughs. That character would not be written today. But yes, the acting is so good that we actually feel for him up until the point where he tries to seduce Howard's wife, Liz. So I'd say yes, it's a good part of the movie.
It's hard to be disappointed with Phil Hartman, even when his character is just as bad as Arnold. the internet discussions, and theories about the film. Jingle All the Way wasn't trying to change the world. It's a dumb Christmas movie attempting to cater to a young audience. But what if there was more to it? Several theories, of course, found on Reddit about the film speculate a deeper meaning to it. A few theories about Myron are wild. The first is that he's an escaped mental patient working as a postal worker played into real-life news stories from the 80s and early 90s of disgruntled postal workers who went postal. The second Myron theory is that he was all part of Howard's imagination and didn't really exist. It's all silly fun, and it's far more interesting than actually discussing the story of the film. What do you think, Scott?
After reading the Myron doesn't exist theory, I have to admit it lived rent-free in my head for about a week. I agree that Myron being a postal worker might have some merit, and it probably seemed funnier back then than it does now. So no, it's not a good part of the movie.
For me, to get through this movie believing Myron is part of Howard's imagination and doesn't exist, it just brings me great joy. It's better than a sequel. In 2014, Jingle All the Way received a sequel starring Larry the Cable Guy, produced by the 20th Century Fox and WWE Studios. The direct-to-DVD film told the story of truck driver Larry competing for his daughter's affection, with his ex-wife hoping to give his daughter Harrison a talking bear for Christmas. The movie has nothing to do with the original film. I never saw it, but based on the trailer and what I think, it's safe to say that it's awful and probably not as good as the original. I don't normally judge a film until I watch it, but for the sequel, I think I'm going to make an exception.
Before I watched Jingle All the Way, I told myself I was going to watch both movies. That plan did not survive first contact with the film, and I seriously doubt I would ever watch the sequel. I guess it makes the first movie good by comparison, but that's pretty weak sauce.
Alright, Scott, I think a great challenge would be for who can last longer watching the film. Neither of us watched the movie, but I think we both agree it wasn't necessary.
Sinbad was a good actor for the role of Myron. Sinbad isn't the best actor out there, but I can't picture anyone else in the role, and if we consider it a movie of its time, he was probably at the height of his fame when he did it. He plays the wacko loser character really well, even if the writing took it too far by today's standards. I doubt we'd see a bomb scene played for laughs in any modern movie. His retro charm did add to my enjoyment of this movie.
As a Christmas aficionado, I sometimes know way too many Christmas facts. Originally, Chris Columbus imagined Joe Pesci playing the role of Myron, but comedian Sinbad was chosen due to his similar height and size to Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I think I agree, Sinbad was a better choice to play against Arnold.
Myron Given the Toy at the end. At the end of the movie, Jamie, the son, gives the Turbo Man doll to Myron. Earlier in the movie, Myron says his neighbor got the toy he wanted for Christmas and grew up to be a CEO.
You know what happened? He became a billionaire. And me? Well, I'm just a loser with no future.
While Myron didn't get the toy, his life was miserable and he ended up resenting his father. Maybe this gives us hope that someone with as awful a father as Myron could grow up happy and well-adjusted.
I don't have much hope for any of these fathers could be redeemed. Even Arnold at the end is an awful father and husband, where he forgets to get a gift for his wife. I think while this is a good thought, I don't agree that this is a good part.
Jamie getting to see his dad as Turbo Man. At the end of the movie, Jamie gets to see his dad in the Turbo Man costume and ostensibly believes that his dad is Turbo Man. After being disappointed by his dad the entire movie, it's nice to see the kid in genuine awe of his father.
As a father, I would want my daughter to always be in awe of her dad. But I think you're right. The future Darth Vader deserved a better father, but Howard is his father. and seeing Jake Lloyd's reaction to discovering his dad is Turbo Man is a great moment in the film.
No better than me.
Dad?
I agree, it's a good part, and something that this movie doesn't deserve.
The satirical parts of the movie. This movie contains a lot of satire about the craziness of chasing after the season's hottest toy, and those parts are genuinely funny. Unfortunately, the writing doesn't always stick to this, and the movie vacillates between being tongue-in-cheek and taking itself too seriously, which is one of its biggest flaws. Had they stuck to the satire, I believe it could have been so much funnier.
The film tries to make you feel for Arnold, but this ultimately fails with the craziest part of the film. I think that if they made Howard a likable character who didn't forget to get his kid a present, the film would have been a lot more successful. I would like to see a movie that was only a comedy and not try to make me feel bad for Howard. I'll agree, but only because I think it would make a better film.
Liz hitting Ted in the head with a thermos. I'm really glad they didn't let Ted get away with trying to seduce Liz. Ted's behavior is so overt and over the top throughout the movie, it's nauseating by today's standards. I'm glad he got a tiny fraction of what he deserved and got it from his target instead of Howard just swooping in and protecting his woman.
You have to feel for Liz. She's married to a horrible husband and has to put up with these sexual advances from Ted. She deserves better and should just grab Jamie and take him far, far away. Ted deserved to get hit so much more, and I agree, it's a good part. So let's review. Jingle All the Way is not a great film and has a lot of flaws. It has its problems, but I think we both agree these are some good parts. The look and style of the Turbo Man show. The story inspiration. Phil Hartman. It's better than the sequel. Sinbad was a good actor for the role of Myron. Jamie getting to see his dad as Turbo Man. The satirical parts of the film. And Liz hitting Ted in the head with the thermos. The only part we don't agree was a good part was the internet discussions and theories about the film and Myron getting the toy at the end. Although thinking that Myron doesn't exist sure does still sound amazing to me. Well, thank you, Scott. Where can people find you?
Please check out the Tinsel Tunes and Christmas Morning podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, that's what we agree on as good parts of Jingle All the Way. Have a suggestion for a future episode? Leave a comment below. We will see if there are any good parts in the next episode, featuring the terrible Christmas movie, Christmas Story 2. Click on that subscribe button to be alerted when that episode is released if you want to find out. I'm the Christmas aficionado, and remember, stay off the naughty list.